This is the Financially Simple Podcast, a show dedicated to destroying the complexities of money for today's small business owner. And now, here's your host, pizza-loving, certified financial planner, Justin Goodbread.
Welcome to Financially Simple. This is a finance show for small business owners about money, how it works in our business and our personal lives, and how we can build wealth to be financially independent. I'm your host, Justin Goodbread, and today is episode number 10. Today's episode is titled, Love People and Use Things. Do you recognize the name David Dao? You spell his last name D-A-O, just like it sounds, Dao. Maybe you don't recognize that name right offhand, but this person became popular in April of 2017, last year to be a fact. United Airlines found themselves right in the crosshairs of a media firestorm. David is a doctor, and right now your mind's eye may start to remember how David became so popular. He was ultimately videoed being drugged off of the United Airlines flight. It was quite interesting to say the least. Now, there were many things which led to the forceful removal of David from the flight. I'm not going to dig into the details of the circumstances, but one thing I am certain of, it was not the original intent to have passengers forcefully removed from the flight and have a media firestorm erupt. That wasn't the intent. I doubt the executives who created the policies which led to the removal of David from the flight thought the event would unfold the way it actually did. You're probably like, Justin, okay, what does it have to do with love people and use things? And what does love people and use things have anything to do with selling a business, dude? Yeah, so today I want to deal with a thing called values and culture. Values and culture. Why? Well, the business which has outstanding values and a strong culture will bring top dollar. Your buyers are going to know the difference. And just like you recognize the difference between those companies which have strong values and cultures and those that don't, your buyers will recognize that also. Let me ask you, have you ever been in a store and been shrugged off by an uncaring employee? Sure you have. Sure you have. I remember something to this day, it marks my mind. My dad and I, we were going hunting for a series of weekends, 4 weeks in a row, I can remember that. And Daddy pulled into the fast food restaurant. I think it was a McDonald's. I think that was the only thing open in our small town as we were getting ready to go to the woods. We were probably going dove hunting or something. But Dad would go in and he'd order a biscuit. I think it was a sausage biscuit. And we would get going down the road and he would get to his biscuit and it'd be wrong. And my dad was pretty easygoing. I mean, happy-go-lucky most of the time, like most people. And he was like, well, I guess I'm going to eat a bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit today. And it got kind of funny. So about the last week we were making this trip to go hunting. Dad pulled up to the drive-through window, and the young girl who had been the same young girl there for the last 4 weeks, that was her shift, he pulled up and she said, welcome to so-and-so, how may I help you? And very courteous, and it's like 4 a.m. in the morning. And Dad said, I'll tell you what, you just pick any biscuit you want to give me and charge me for it, and I'm good. And we got around and we're all kind of chuckling. It wasn't anything mean or hostile. We were just, goofing, and the young lady was so apologetic. I mean, and Dad really wasn't trying to make it stink. But it was just kind of like, okay, I'm sorry. And it wasn't really top-notch service. We've all seen the dark side of business, and I'm trying to use a little bit of gentleness and kindness and not go into the major things. I mean, we probably have had employees treat us very unfairly. I'm sure we've had people that we've shopped with, we feel like we're often undervalued. One of my friends told me recently that the happiest time he feels is when he gets in his car and starts to head home. I mean, this is an employee and he's happiest when he's starting to head home? Man. Have you ever been there as an employee? Have you ever been this employee? You're like, no, I've never been an employee. That's me. I've pretty much been the boss my whole life. But man, it's a problem whenever our employees don't like their jobs. Now, we know that people change and move and this, that, for all different reasons. But for the most part, many times it could be a result of bad culture. I've worked with hundreds of business owners over the years, and I can count on one hand the conversations brought up or started by business owners about values or culture. No, most of us, we want to talk about money. We want to talk about the problems we're having with employees. We want to talk about how we can gain more customer, more market share. Seldom do we want to talk about how we can add value to our team, or how we can change the culture, how we can improve the morale. And this is not a shock. Many of us business owners get bad raps with the employees. I was talking with a dentist one time. He's like, man, my employees hate me. They just think I'm a rich dentist, and which was far from the truth. I mean, the guy was broke as a joke. But many times employers get a bad rap with employees. The reason for that is we're so driven. We're driven, and it may appear, even though it's not the case, to our employees, our family even, our friends, customers, suppliers, that really all we care about is money. Or, all we care about is the next sale. Or hitting the next big goal is more important than anything else. And that's often furthest from the truth. Now, I'm not saying don't be driven, but many times we get a bad rap. This is not the way our businesses should operate. Hence the title of our show today, Love People and Use Things. We know this, but it doesn't go without saying, people are not objects. I am not an object. You are not an object. You know what I hate? I hate feeling used. Now, maybe you don't mind being used. I hate feeling used. I hate it when a, quote, friend calls me about a particular circumstance, wants, quote, free advice, and just picks my brain and says, okay, thanks, man, hangs up, and then you don't hear from that, quote, friend for many, 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 many months later. I've had that happen many times. Hey, Justin, remember we went to high school together. Hey, can you give me a discount? I heard one friend said, no good deed goes unpunished. Maybe we should do an episode on that. No good deed goes unpunished, and share war stories as us business owners who we try to help somebody end up getting whooped, right? I get frustrated when I, quote, friends call me and they never ask about my family. They don't ask about my kids. They don't ask about my wife. They don't ask about the farm. They don't ask about my business. Hey, how's your business doing? They don't ask about my tractor. They don't even ask about pizza. I mean, how can you not ask about pizza, right? They just want to use it for free money and advice and move on. The macro or the meta-narrative of our culture seems to be so self-serving this time that we forget that people are to be loved. We're not to use them. The culture of kindness of our business should be built on words like kindness and trust and fairness. So with that, I want to lay the groundwork here. Everything in our business blooms out of values. I'm going to say it again. Everything blooms out of our values. Now, I use the word blooms because of my horticulture degree. Things like honesty, fairness, respect can all be seen in how we treat people. To dive right back into my pocketbook, talking to me, the business owner, Justin Goodbread, I'm talking hitting square between the eyes. Here's a hard-hitting point. The way I compensate my team is a direct result of the values I place on the people I'm responsible for. This doesn't mean I'm to overpay for the position, but many times I see business owners trying to underpay employees and demand the highest performance. We talk about being ethical. We talk about being hardworking and honest. Man, if you got an employee who's just busting it, you better be honest. Your values are going to often be seen in how you pay people. That's the way many times employees view things, is, am I being compensated what I'm worth? Now, in that same token, I realize this is the United States of America, and if someone feels like they're undervalued, obviously they can change careers. I get that. But if value is where everything blooms, then culture is where everything grows. So I'm using my agrarian terms here. So let's put it this way. Value is similar, akin to the soil that we're going to put the seeds in, if you will. If the soil is good soil, it's got a good pH, then that seed, whatever it is going to germinate, and it's going to produce the produce or the flower or whatever that we hope for it produces. So that's value. It's like the soil. And then the culture is like the macro environment, the greenhouse, climate controlled, if you will. If the soil is good, but yet we're trying to grow seeds in Antarctica, chances are it's not going to work because the culture, the environment is not conducive for good growth. And on the adverse side, if we have good soil and we put it into a very good climate controlled situation and where we have the right moisture, we have the right heat, we have the right light, then that plant is going to flourish. I'll never forget going to Epcot as a kid. In fact, I haven't been there in some years. Maybe they still have this there. But we took a ride and we saw the aquaponics system. I love aquaponics. It's where they spray water and minerals and nutrients on the bare roots of plants, and the plants appear to be growing in thin air, which they are. It's aquaponics. Hydroponics is another type of growing system. So if we're dealing with growth, we're trying to grow our business, think in terms of soil. The values that we put is like the dirt, if you will, and the culture, what we emanate throughout our business is like the greenhouse. They have to be both solid. Again, we're talking about a business built to sell. You want a company which emanates the values that the buyer wants, a company which retains employees, a harmonious group of people pulling in the same direction. You don't want any infighting. You don't have time for that. This is your life stake here.
You are listening to Financially Simple, destroying the complexities of money for today's small business owner.
So how can you tell if a company has poor values? One thing I've noticed over the years that will tell to me it's a dead-on mark to look at the culture of the company or the values of the company is to look at the employee turnovers. How many employees turn over in and out of your company? If you have a high turnover ratio, many times the most talented employees leave first. Now, I'm not talking about a team building here. I'm not talking about where you're trying to replace underperforming employees with better performing employees. I'm talking about whenever you have key players of your company that just up and leave. See, in a company that has poor values or poor culture, your top employees leave first. And then what you're left with is employees who can't seek or can't get gainful employment at the same level elsewhere. Yeah, if you have major turnover, it's a surefire way to tell if you have cultural issues. The values of the company are not aligning with the culture of your employees. Either the employees you're hiring don't match the culture or the values, or the values or the culture of the company has changed dramatically from the desired mark, which could happen. If you leave this unattended for some time, you could end up getting weeds, if you will, in your employee base. You could end up having problems. So let me give you some areas of danger. As you go into this, I'm talking now specifically away from the employees to you, the proprietor. Here's some areas of danger that you and I must be diligent and guard from. If we can knock these out of our companies, then we can foster the culture and we can foster the environment with the values that we need to build our company to the top-notch business we can sell. That's the idea here. The whole job for us right now is to design our company to the point where we can sell it. So one area of danger is lip service. Lip service. Some years ago, I was on a team with one of the large financial firms I was with in the past to go and actually work with another financial firm to come in and help them on some transitional things. And this firm, it had words on the website like integrity, caring, kind, gentle. They were having to tell people who they were, right? They provided good lip service. In fact, in our initial interview over the phones, we heard what we would expect to hear. The proprietors or the partners in this case were saying the right things. They had all the grammatical areas down. However, the first day in our office, we saw a different picture. The partners were trying to impress our team on their management abilities, and we knew something wasn't right. The numbers were reflecting. We just couldn't figure out what. And so then partners started off the discussion like we kind of expected, saying that we're going to have this group of consultants here today to provide some insight to the partners on how to grow the business for the future. And today, just act like normal, and we want open and honest discussions today. Okay, cool. So we're around this big law firm table almost, this big long table, everybody's around it. And within a few minutes after that partner said that, I heard a junior employee bring up a brilliant idea. In fact, it's never left my mind. I've actually implemented her idea into my business. And as she spoke, I'm going, wow, that is brilliant. Yet the partner who started off the meeting, sitting just kitty corner of her, or catty corner, depending on what part of the country you're from, who just spoke about openness and honesty and integrity, never acknowledged her remarks. In fact, he never even acknowledged her. He sat looking the entire time on his phone. Like his phone's in his hand and she's talking, yeah. He had no idea what she said. And immediately, as if not to like throw gasoline on the fire, as soon as she gets done talking, he didn't say, hey, this is a good idea, whatever. No, he said, okay, now that we got that done, let's move on to the next topic. What he said was, we're here for good, honest, growth-building cultural efficiencies today. What he did was provide lip service. He didn't care about what she had to say. And it's interesting that coming just a few months later, she left. The junior advisor didn't stay long. And they couldn't figure out why it was employee turnover. And the reason why is you had lip service. You had the talk don't match the walk, as someone used to say, or the walk don't match the talk. Friends, we can't just provide lip service to our team. It doesn't work. you're going to be able to tell it elsewhere. You're like, well, Justin, I can't see anywhere else. Trust me, a savvy buyer can tell. I can walk into a business now and see within a few minutes usually problems and know what the cause of it is. And lip service many times is it. And friends, I do it. Every one of us do it. And the reason for it is because we're so busy. We have so many things in our minds that we forget that we're to love people and use things, and not to love things and use people. A second caution I have for us, and it's one that when I say it, you're going to say, yep, I've seen that one, and that's greed. Greed is the enemy of the business owner. I've heard many times business owners say, my customers are first, or my employees are first. But in all actuality, many times the owner only cares about themselves and what they can gain from their business or from their customers or from their employees. There is a direct correlation between the greed factor and how it impacts your value and your culture. Have you ever seen a company that demotivates its employees because of greed? I'm going to call this guy Superstar Joe. Superstar Joe is an awesome sales guy. He can sell ice to an Eskimo, as I once heard somebody say. I mean, this guy, he can sell it, right? The owner, the corporate HR, everybody is just noticing how good, but they also notice how much Superstar Joe's making. Superstar Joe was not hired to make as much money as he is. And so what happens? Everybody gets together and the higher ups, your owners, HR, everybody comes in. They say, you know what we're going to do is we're going to adjust the compensation plan. And then they give out the new compensation plan. In effect, what they're saying is, hey, dude, you're making too much money. And so we're going to start regulating. I actually had a friend this happened to. He was hired, and the owners of the company were only expecting him to make like $50,000 a year. He ended up making like $100,000 a year. He was making more than the owners of the company, and he was doing his job and doing it well. Well, same thing. They had to go and adjust the compensation plan. It just kind of just sailed off the end of their tongue. He told me, he said, yeah, they're adjusting my comp plan. I said, get ready for a pay cut. He goes, what? I said, get ready for a pay cut. Now, there may be a reason to do that. I'm not saying that's not a bad thing. But what ended up happening ultimately is it creates demotivation. And you know what? Superstar Joe says, you know what? I don't have to work that hard anymore. And the other salespeople who were once envious of Superstar Joe, who could sell anything and had 2 or 3 times their sales, all of a sudden they didn't look so bad. Superstar Joe wasn't working as hard. He was making the exact same amount of money everybody else was. And all he was really doing was buying time to fill his position somewhere else. And Superstar Joe leaves. Why? As a result of demotivation. And I get it. Sometimes we have to make adjustments in comp. I'm not knocking that. All I'm saying is greed. If it's an avenue of greed, which in this case it was, it could cause demotivation. You have bad culture, bad values. So now let's look at those other salespeople who just saw Superstar Joe leave because they cut his pay, and they're going to go, do I really need to work this hard? Maybe not. If I make too much money, they're going to cut my pay. We've all seen companies that have bad culture. But, you know, there are many companies that are fun to watch. There are companies whose culture just resonates. It's like, that's awesome. You know, Walt Disney World, I gave an example in one of the previous podcasts of how Walt Disney World does this. Probably one that I love. In fact, I may go visit this company today as I'm talking about this, is Chick-fil-A. Now, Chick-fil-A, for those of you who are around the globe or maybe not in East Tennessee, it's a restaurant that's throughout most of the Southeast United States. There are some places a little bit further, but Chick-fil-A is just basically a fast food restaurant that has a chicken sandwich that is just unbelievable. It is so good. But Chick-fil-A is more than just the sandwich. It's about a culture of value. If I'm on a corner and I see a McDonald's on one corner and a Chick-fil-A on the other corner, if I'm just sitting at the red light, I can tell you almost inevitably that the Chick-fil-A drive-thru is going to be wrapped all the way around the building. There's going to be cars, 15, 20, 30 cars waiting to go through the drive-thru. McDonald's may have 3. Why? Well, if you've ever visited a Chick-fil-A, you can recognize the values in the culture. You will be greeted with a smile at Chick-fil-A. Doesn't matter where you're at. You're going to be greeted with a smile. In East Tennessee, we hear things like, how may I help you? How may I serve you often? Typically a courteous person. It doesn't matter the age. People are smiling. They're courteous. I'll say thank you, and they say it's my pleasure. Man, that just makes you smile. You could be having the worst day of your life. Go through a Chick-fil-A and somebody's going to greet you with a smile and say it's my pleasure. Man, that's just a wow, amazing culture. What's the difference? My dad used to say, if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck, right? Chick-fil-A's talk and the walk match. They match each other. Willard Marriott, founder of the Marriott Hotel, is credited for saying, Take care of associates, and they'll take care of your customers. And Mr. Marriott built an empire. We recognize his hotels globally, actually. I mean, he built an empire. I also heard it say, take care of your employees, and your employees will take care of your customers, and the customers will take care of you, which I believe that's true. So how do we build good values? Number one, we reward the behavior we want to encourage. We don't reward poor behavior. If you want sales, you reward sales. If you want kindness, you reward kindness. Second thing we can do is we can promote and applaud those who portray the values we want to achieve. If we're after thank you or it's my pleasure, then you promote or applaud those individuals who get it, who have the song and dance down, so to speak. The third thing you can do is you can promote positive reinforcement versus punishment. My son, Justice, I love that boy to death, but let me tell you, he's a wet noodle. And what I mean by that, have you ever tried to push a wet spaghetti noodle? Lay the spaghetti noodle out on the counter and push it. It doesn't work. It actually will crumple up. But you can pull the noodle gently. That's my Justice. He is only motivated through positive reinforcement. You cannot push him to do anything. Same thing with your employees. Same thing with your team. You want to create positive reinforcement. Fourth thing you can do is recognize and increase responsibility. Obviously, we are going to use money, but some people are not motivated by money. Just be generous and recognize that whenever someone does a good job, recognition is always in order. Maybe not a promotion, but recognition is always in order. Fifth, be kind. Say thank you for a good job. When you see a good job, say thank you. Write a little note. One of my employees at one of my companies, she did an awesome job on something, just outstanding, above and beyond, blew my mind. I went home and told my wife, I said, so-and-so did a great job today. I did not expect it. My wife, the next morning, I get up, and she had made a little gift basket, put a little thank you card in there, took some farm fresh eggs and some other goodies, and made a little basket. And I walked in and said, hey, this is just thank you for doing a good job yesterday on that one thing. And it made her day. In fact, not only did it make her day, but the entire office just was different. It was just harmonious that day. And I'm not saying it's never harmonious, but it was just different. And here's the hardest thing, though, folks. Number 6, keep it real. Leaders must lead. You have to get into the trenches with your people and bring them along. You can't stand up on the side and bark orders from above and expect it to get done. It's not going to work. You're only going to damage the values and the culture of your company if you do that. You ever seen a good hero movie? Why do we like them? I like watching war movies. And inevitably, the heroes of the war movies are the guys or gals who get into the trenches and are leading people through some dangerous areas. That's you. Yeah, you may have a big fancy check. Name may be on the building. You may have a big truck. Big flying flip. You put your pants on the same way the rest of your team does. You want the same things your team does. You want to see your grandkids one day. You want to go and travel. You want to do the same thing your team wants. Your team is not your slaves to serve you. No, you are their leader. So you've got to jump into the company and you've got to drive the culture. My mom used to say, never forget where you came from, son. You grew up on a dirt road. Yeah, I did. So why is it important today to deal with culture and values? At some point in the future, a buyer is going to be looking at your company if you're building it to sell. And the buyer is going to be recognizing easily the culture and the values of your company. A company with strong values and a strong culture will bring more money and more reward than a company who has poor cultures or poor values. And friends, I want to have fun. I'm having the time of my life in my business. I want to have fun with it. I want to love my job, which I do. I think I have the best potential career in the world. I love what I do. I'm made for this. But imagine having to go to work and hating it. It's all part of values and culture. So friends, that's it for episode number 10. Episode number 10 is in the books. Like I say every time I close a podcast out, life is hard, life is complicated. Business and money doesn't have to be. Let's continue to make our lives, at least financially, simple. Hey, y'all go out and create an outstanding day.
You have been listening to the Financially Simple podcast. The information in this show is for informational purposes only. This show is not investment advice. Instead, seek help from a competent financial advisor. Justin Goodbread, CFP, is an investment advisor representative of Heritage Investors, a registered investment advisor.